Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Ben, the Managing Director of STACS. Welcome to our STACS Showcase, which is a full week of live panels featuring guest speakers from all over the world and live showcases of our STACS technology, which is happening during this week of the Singapore FinTech Festival. So of course, we are very pleased and honored to have many leading institutions joining us for these sessions. And for this current session, we have two guest speakers from leading institutions of the Deutsche Bank and UnionBank of the Philippines. I will shortly invite each of our guest speakers to make a brief self-introduction of himself. So first up, we have Ramon Cervantes, Product Manager, Blockchain and Investments, FinTech Group, UnionBank of the Philippines. Ram?
Hey Ben, thank you for the warm introduction and good afternoon everyone who's dialed in. My name is Ram Cervantes. I am a FinTech Product Manager under the Blockchain Center of Excellence of UnionBank of the Philippines. Before I moved to FinTech last year, my role was primarily in doing capital markets as a portfolio manager for equities. So I'm really excited to find out how we can utilize blockchain to really innovate this field.
Thanks, Ram. Next, we also have Chris Hui, Business Solutions Singapore, Securities Services, Deutsche Bank. Chris.
Hi, everybody. Brief introduction about myself. I am part of the Deutsche Bank Securities Services team, responsible for business solutions and client management in Singapore, seeing how we can help our clients solve issues. I have been in the security services and post-trade industry for more than 12 years. So security services have always played a key role and is the backbone of the post-trade infrastructure, particularly in the institutional space. We specialize in cross-border post-trade settlement, safekeeping of investor assets, and perform asset servicing such as coupon payments and redemption. So in the same context, very happy to be part of the panel in this virtual session, where we are collaborating with STACS DLT and other collaborators to explore use cases and really discuss the opportunities and potential benefits that DLT platform can bring to the financial industry.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much, Ram. So of course, we are very privileged to be having both of you here. And as Chris, you mentioned, we have been collaborating, I think, over the period of last 2 months, where we really gained a lot, where STACS, at the team, at the entire team at STACS, including myself, we really learned a lot from you into the workings of the capital markets. So together with Ram and the UnionBank team, Deutsche Bank, UnionBank teams, and STACS team, we came together to really evaluate how we could possibly drive financial inclusion using DLT technology. So we'd be very, 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 very pleased to be able to compile all of these learnings into this case study, which we will present shortly, and also have a live demonstration of how the technology will be able to support that. So of course, we have given this name, Point Z, actually a name given by Ram, Point Z of the future state of how we are going to transform the future of the capital markets. And because Ram, you're the one who gave us this name, okay, why don't you walk us through the presentation as you have already prepared this. Ram, over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ben. So the way that I see it, the world is becoming more interconnected. Technology's allowed people across the globe to interact seamlessly. Now, we're in the midst of pandemic, as we all know, and we're seeing humans adapting even faster than ever before. The settings forced people to learn new ways to live their lives, both in a personal and professional realm. So people are asking, if not demanding, that the businesses that they patronize adapt as well. The restaurants that aren't on food delivery platforms, or the retail outlets that aren't on e-commerce sites, even for banks that aren't, really connected via mobile. Those firms who have been unable to adapt to these new ways of working, they're unable to really serve their customers. So I want to paraphrase a saying that our president in UnionBank said a long time ago when we embarked on our digital transformation journey. He said before we needed to digitize or perish, and now it's pretty apparent that we needed to adapt or perish. Next slide, please. The thing is that Union Banks always prided ourselves in being pretty technologically advanced, especially in the financial institution landscape in the Philippines. If you can see over there, 2 decades ago, we were already promoting the use of online portals for financial transactions. We were ahead of the curve. Actually, we were probably too far ahead of the curve because the market wasn't really ready for what we had to offer back then. And now things are different. The shift that Union Banks made over the last few years is pretty well documented. We've had a rapid progression that's made us a name to watch in the region, not really just as a competitor, but more of a collaborator, a partner, an enabler. We've chosen the road less traveled by our local peers to invest heavily in these technologies that people didn't look into, or to allow fintechs into our house as allies instead of enemies, to provide experiences to customers in ways that they didn't think possible from their bank. So from our great online channels that you can see over there that have really nice, smooth user interfaces, to our signature ARC digital branch, to our virtual currency ATM, we've really pushed the envelope in terms of what people see in the industry. And the reason for that boils down to one thing. You could go to the next slide. There you go. All the initiatives have succeeded because it really stems from what I'd like to think is an obsession on user centricity. What do our clients want to have? What would they need to do? Where will they need to go to accomplish their goals? And how can we service them better? We understand that they have these visions of what an ideal experience is, and we try to take that, work back from there, and build the capabilities needed along the way to get there. So when we're talking about the capital markets, we've envisioned this ideal state for what it would be like for a retail investor. We asked ourselves, how can we democratize the capital markets to improve financial inclusion for the investors and even the issuers? Are there ways for us to utilize technology in a way that increases execution speed, improves data security, and still lower the barriers to entry? What is this ideal state, this point Z as mentioned by Ben earlier? How can we do this and who can help us attain this? So our belief is that point Z might look something like this. Imagine there's a capital marketplace platform where companies can choose from any of the partner banks that are on the platform for a digital asset issuance. Then you have it powered by a system that's able to quickly and efficiently create securities in a tokenized form. If that's the case, even the smaller firms can now get access to new financing options. The efficiencies generated here can help that happen, not to mention the fact that it can help lower the barriers for investors to join. So now investors may be able to place orders for maybe as low as $1 rather than the tens of thousands that they need to place right now. Then imagine how the automation and integration for this one can take place on digital channels so that an investor can get on their mobile phone, for example, and open up a security market that has all assets, both locally and internationally issued. And what if this system can accept payments of all kinds where, I, for one, could invest in a dollar asset using Philippine peso, or maybe a cryptocurrency or Libra, or even a stable coin like PHX. Think about how much quicker it would be, how much more secure the settlements could be when this all happens in real time, delivery versus payment, because you're using smart contracts. So this is what we call our ideal state, our point Z, as mentioned. It's something that probably seems very far away for traditional bankers. But the thing is, we're pretty far from traditional. We've spent years studying and observing the trends. We've seen the tech evolve. And now we have partners like STACS and Deutsche that's able to build this with us. We now believe that there's a foundation there to get to point Z. And with the project that we have in place, we aim to combine the technological knowledge we have on blockchain, on smart contracts, on tokenization and stablecoin, combine that with financial expertise on market regulations or the infrastructures needed to give a new experience for our stakeholders. But before we get too deep into the project, let's go a bit deeper first into the technology that powers it, tokenization and stablecoins. So as you can see, our friends in STACS have given us good definition of what asset tokenization is. So it's a process of programming business parameters into a token using blockchain-based technology so as to represent the ownership rights of a particular asset. Now, why is this actually important to us? What it means for us in the banking system is that the automation will relieve a lot of our pain points that exist. The system can tell us which investors are eligible. It can execute corporate transactions as needed. The management of the proceeds and on-demand reporting allows for greater transparency. And trust me, a lot of these things are going to be discussed all throughout the week. So make sure to check out the different events that we have because we'll get into the depths of those in other talks, but for now, let's focus on the thing in the middle that you see there, the fractionalization and the liquidity portion. You see, when you have the fractionalization, what does that really mean for us? It means that investors right now who may not be able to access some of these different asset classes, these tokens, they might be able to come in at these smaller sizes because of the inefficiencies that is caused by blockchain. It becomes feasible now to issue in those smaller lot sizes. And now, maybe retail investors can participate in ways that they never had the ability to before. Now, the other key technology, as mentioned, is stablecoin. The ability for users to invest in these fractional sizes may be addressed by tokenization, but the integration of stablecoin in that picture really completes everything as a payment method. It allows smart contracts to really ensure the real-time delivery versus payment, and that benefits all parties involved because there's a lot more efficiency, and you're also removing some of the volatility risk that might be in play if you decided to use a cryptocurrency. Now, UnionBank has developed its own stablecoin called PHX for this very purpose. It allows for the seamless and quick transfer of value among the different users and combines the accuracy, transparency, and agility. It's already something that's being used in our award-winning Eye-to-Eye platform, which connects hundreds of rural banks nationwide. And for those of you who have been following UnionBank's story, you might have been at SFF last year and you were able to catch that we had a cross-border payment use case as well. So again, we're trying to push the envelope in terms of how we can reimagine and reinvent the financial system. And right now, we're focusing on how we can use this technology in improving the financial inclusion in investing. When people think of investments, they think that it's a rich man's game. Can we use this technology to make it something that the everyman can do? Can we create a future where anyone has the opportunity to invest in the same kinds of assets regardless of their wealth? Can we shape the future of finance that way? So these are some of the questions that we aim to solve with the integration of PHX in our project. And as mentioned, we're very happy that we get to partner with great institutions like STACS, and the man that I'd like to turn over the floor to, Chris of Deutsche Bank. Chris?
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks. I'm really looking forward to point Z, actually. So as Van introduced to us earlier, new technologies such as DLT is expected to bring about transformation to the capital markets and the financial industry. So in the next two slides, I want to focus on what this could actually mean to the post-trade services industry, given that it has always been the infrastructure for the entire post-trade industry. So of course, I will also delve into the corresponding benefits of it. So in this slide, you can see it very clearly, Securities post-trade has always been plagued by long-standing inefficiencies, mainly arising from the traditional and linear and sequential way of passing the information along the various participants in the ecosystem. Just take, for example, a company annual general meeting, AGM meeting in Singapore. To send in a voting instruction, an asset owner or investors would have to log in into a proprietary portal of a global custodian, who then passes it down to the domestic custodian via electronic SWIFT message, who finally receives it, fills up a physical form, signs it, and submits it to the company registrar for the votes to be counted. So what are the problems and inefficiencies here? Clearly, due to different forms of communication tools being used by each of the participants, this way of communicating requires a huge effort and resources to pass the baton down accurately and quickly down the value chain. To make things even more challenging in a cross-border context, participants could be operating in an entirely different time zone like the US. And this can bring about more delays and friction within this workflow. And I think many of us working in Asia, we would come across one way or another, have worked with a client, a service provider, or a counterpart in the US time zone. Right? Just take, for example, the difficulty of reconciling a simple issue like trade instruction mismatch. Could take days, especially if the issue involves all 5 to 6 participants in the entire value chain. At the same time, we are not able to quickly pick up the phone and call due to time zone differences. So what can DLT technology actually bring to the table over there? DLT or blockchain platform is one way that could create a shared and more unified way of communicating. A shared platform would mean that data no longer flow in a sequential manner, but instead updated and notified to each of the participants concurrently. So concurrently is the keyword over here. Just take, for example, a confirmation of a bond settling successfully on the platform, or even a potential settlement failure being notified immediately through the DLT, triggering follow-up actions from all the participants. At the same time, participants are plugged into the same platform using the same data protocol and accessing common business processing logic. This takes away a multitude of medium translation inefficiencies and inaccuracies. So once we can reduce these inefficiencies, there's a high likelihood it will translate to cost savings and productivity for the market participants, and also better asset protection for investors. Adding on to these benefits, DLT other characteristics like precision from smart contracts can mean facilitating financial inclusion to the masses, because it allows transaction of smaller nominals, for example, fractionalized bonds, which Brown has mentioned earlier. And this can only be achieved when the cost is low. Of course, reducing inefficiencies in the post-trade workflow cannot be the only benefit a DLT platform can bring. Can I trouble you, Ben, to move on to the next slide? So another key component is that the DLT platform should not work in silos, but instead have the capability to interoperate with other DLTs as well as non-DLT platforms. For example, the benefit of being able to plug into bank-issued stablecoins that can be used to buy digital retail bonds, like the one RAM from UTP has introduced to us earlier. This will provide investors more payment options on top of the traditional cash payment like SWIFT that the industry currently uses. Lastly, the use of DLT platform actually opens up the possibility of use of smart contracts. Imagine having pre-programmed smart contracts incorporated into bond token. That could mean more automation of the entire asset servicing and corporate action lifecycle, as well as potential for new governance features like e-voting. In fact, back in 2019, Deutsche Bank had completed a DLT-based proxy e-voting proof of concept with SWIFT and other bank collaborators. So what does it really mean to have smart contracts, you might ask? So with smart contracts, the custodian and participant no longer need to worry about when to pay, who to pay, and how much to pay. And given these smart contract rules and payment functions will take care of the process throughout the entire life cycle, removing the need to have manual spreadsheet calculations, reconciliations, all the way until the redemption of the bond token. But while we realize the smart contracts can be complex, this also means that potentially the existing subject matter expert operators, the SMEs, can have new roles relating to smart contracts to create new value for investors. I think this is where the domain knowledge of a custodian is important, and this is where Deutsche Bank can play a part. In summary, I briefly described what are the issues DLT can help us solve. Reducing inefficiency due to multiple forms of communications tools down the value chain, transforming sequential workflow from sequential to concurrent for all participants in a unified platform, breaking down existing issues that market participants are currently experiencing. I've also touched on the importance of DLT platform being able to interoperate, like connecting with bank-issued stablecoins, allowing more options for investors and participants alike. Finally, the use of smart contracts within the DLT platform can automate many of the asset servicing and governance processes, further optimizing the entire workflow. At this point in time, I'd like to turn back to Ben for the next segment. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Ram. Truly inspired by the spirit of collaboration. Over the last 2 months, that has allowed us to really capture all of these valuable insights and put them together into our Trident platform. So what is our Trident platform? Our Trident platform is essentially a platform that allows for end-to-end management of financing in a box. So how does this box look like? It looks like this. First of all, we have a blockchain layer, our STACS blockchain with its smart contracts that is deployed on traditional infrastructure, which includes on-prem servers or cloud servers. We also have above the blockchain a layer of APIs that are connected to our own Trident front end or other existing bank systems. As we move into production, we expect the bank systems like trade booking systems, treasury system, and the respective account structure to be able to be easily connected via API onto our smart contracts. Also, we are already able to demonstrate how we are already integrated with other payment systems today. For example, we have showcased our live integration with Project Ubin, and shortly, we also showcase our integration with a few other interesting payment systems. Of course, within Trident, we also have various modules which we'll demonstrate some of them today. For example, asset issuance, subscription, and asset servicing. So for the purposes of the demo, we have come up with this workflow, which we'll jump into shortly. So we'll be very happy to be able to receive valuable insights from both Deutsche and UnionBank. For example, starting right from the top, when we were creating the digital bond, we were able to have certain experts help from Deutsche Bank who have experience in being a service provider, trustee, and issuing a paying agent to advise us on certain business requirements of creating a bond. So with that, I'll jump straight into the demo. So I have already logged in, okay, to the platform that you see here. So this is the Trident application. This is a front-end user interface, which is actually overlaying a layer of smart contracts. In other words, I can now create smart contracts just by simply filling out these fields without writing programming language. Of course, I've cheated here and I've already created the fields just before this moment, okay, just to save time. So we've created a new bond. It's called Social Inclusion Bonds that's due in 5 years' time. We are able to add the issuer rating and the ISIN code. So we are issuing 100 million, $1 each today. And we are assigning it a coupon rate with the following coupon payment dates. They are automatically recorded into the smart contract. We are also making it callable. 2 years from now, we are able to redeem it early. So we mentioned about this being a social bond. So what does it mean? So it's actually under some of these ESG investing mandates. So under the frameworks that we know, there are multiple frameworks that we can add. For now, we have added just as a reference, 2 different types of frameworks into the smart contract. So if we have chosen social bond, we are also able to manage and program the permitted use of proceeds and of course the prohibited use of proceeds. This is also going to be enforced on the smart contract level. So for example, certain investors or ESG funds, they have a certain mandate. Some of them could be investing into environmental friendly projects. Some of them could be investing into something like this, social bond concepts. So therefore, we want them to be able to interact only with what their mandate allows them to, and therefore also do not be able to invest in certain things downstream that may actually end up to be against their mandate, like for example, gambling or tobacco. So going next, here is where we program the trade restrictions for investor eligibility. So the investors could include, okay, for example, institutional or individual, and we are actually enforcing this on the blockchain layer via nationality, residency, retail or accredited, and even risk tolerance. In this case, only risk tolerance 4 and 5 are able to purchase the bonds. Next, we are also able to upload documents. So for example, private documents are documents within the platform. It's for example, legal agreements for participants, or there could be other agreements that could be for public. For example, bond prospectus. There could also be auditor opinion later on, or second party opinion if we are talking about ESG. So finally, we review these parameters. These are all going to the smart contract that will be shortly deployed. And I will deploy it right now. So what I've done is I've easily deployed a bond in a smart contract format onto the blockchain. So that was done in a business-friendly format, in a business-friendly user interface. Of course, besides using Trident, the respective APIs of connecting to the smart contract are also available. So if one day a bank wants to use its own system to be able to have its own maker-checker approval and its own so-called internet platform to be able to deploy its own issuance on the blockchain, they could do so. Let me just view on progress, and you will see that the social inclusion bond that I've just created is now on the blockchain. Clicking on it brings me to the blockchain browser. You are able to see right now that on the browser that the bond has been created as a smart contract. So this smart contract has been deployed inside other various parameters that we have actually filled in. So this bond is now digitalized. It has a life of its own. It has certain actions that will execute based on the respective conditions that we have just programmed. So this is great okay, because we have completed the first section, okay, tokenization, which I see it as a way to enable digitalization of securities. You know, now these documents and the securities itself, they are now digitalized. They are now able to perform certain business logic, which will bring about very effective downstream benefits. So to the next part, okay, we also have received a lot of valuable input and insights from UnionBank from the perspective of arranging a bond, arranging a sale, and of course, allowing investors to invest into it. Okay, so I'll jump back into the demo and show you what I mean. So let me close this browser for now. Okay, so on the launch, okay, so after we issued the bonds, okay, we are now able to launch it for sale, or in industry speak, arrange the bonds for sale. Okay, so let's go on the launch center and create a new launch. Okay, and let's launch the bond that we have just actually created. Okay, so this is the SFF social bonds. Okay, let's make it tranche 1 and let's use Libra. Okay, so the security code would be the one that we have just created. Oops, sorry. The one that we just created, SFF Social 2025, payment address this. Okay, so I've just created 100 million bonds, okay, just a few moments ago. For subscription type, we could do either offer or private. Private is where we are now able to explore a new business model where we are able to sell bonds to identified counterparty. All I need to know is the counterparty's wallet address, and I can allocate a certain tranche to them at a certain price. But let's just make it offer for now, where it is similar to current arranging. And payment method, we have already a few different integrated delivery versus payment methods. These are all integrated. For example, okay, under STACS, these are just simply digital currencies within the STACS blockchain. If they are issued by a bank, for example, Ubin, which is why we will actually showcase this tomorrow under the official Project Ubin channel. We'll be doing a live showcase of how our platform interacts with the Ubin payment networks. So don't miss it tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Otherwise, we're also going to do Libra today, right now, where we are integrated with the Libra network to deliver payments based on the Libra network. And Swift, this is where we are able to produce a output message that is compatible with the Swift network for the bank to process downstream. But for the demo, let's do Libra. Okay, and the receiving, okay, not my actual address, but the receiving address here, Libra address. Okay, so quantity for availability for sale. For example, here we are talking about 100 million available. Let's just make 20 million available right now, for example, using Libra, and $1 each, since we're talking about inclusion. Maximum purchase, let's just say we want to allow more people, so perhaps 10,000. Minimum purchase 1. Settlement in US dollars. Sorry, in Libra. Okay, incremental denomination. This will allow us to be able to minimize the odd number lots, like 0.1, for example. So if it's 1, it is in denominations of $1 each. Subscription period will be from current date to, let's just say, the 31st December. And payment deadline, of course, is when the payment must have been completed by the 31st December. We're choosing instant settlement. Description, we will just talk about SFF as a test, social bond, Libra tranche 1. If you go on to the next, we will be able to review this and publish the smart contract. By publishing the smart contract, we are now reserving 20 million, okay, for sale. Okay, and therefore this 20 million is now committed to be sold to anybody who is trying to buy it. Okay, of course, if you want to launch it again, okay, one thing that I wanted to highlight is that we have also able to produce the connect to the PHX bond that was mentioned just now by RAM. So let's just show this social bond tranche 2 security code. It's the last one that we created. Payment address, okay, subscription type, offer. So here we are able to see that we have already started work on integrating PHX. So this will not be, this is not technically integrated today, but we are able to show a simulation shortly. Okay, so moving on to the next part. So we have already created the launch. Okay, as we go back to the launch center and we look at the history of the launch, we have already created the launch. Okay, and under ESG bonds, under the social inclusion bond, again, this has now been created as a smart contract on the blockchain, allowing for the use of Libra. I will now get out of this screen, okay, and log in as a different persona, as an investor this time. So it's under here. Okay, logging as an investor. Okay, as an investor, okay, I'm able to now simulate logging as a different bank, whereby I have different clients under me. So as an investing bank, I have a United States institution, Singapore institution, Malaysian institutions, etc. So these are mimicking my clients. So as a bank, as an example, as UnionBank logging in, for example, okay, these are the various companies or individuals that are within the bank that have their own blockchain address. So if I look at the asset center, for example, okay, we are able to now read, okay, the various balances of the bonds and currencies. But let's look at Ubin and Libra, for example. For Ubin, if I click on query, I'll be able to read the balance shortly as I am reading information for the Ubin network. For Libra, it's already automatically refreshing. Okay, so this is the Libra address. I will shortly go to the Libra browser. We have a lot of funds inside the Libra address, and we have 89,000 inside the Ubin address. But now let's go to try to buy the bonds. Okay, so under the SFF social bonds, which I just created using Libra, okay, to pay for it, okay, I am now able to see that there's 20 million available for sale. Okay, the trading restrictions have just created the bond. It allows for only Singaporean investors, be it institutional or individuals, to invest in it. So if I try to subscribe to it now, okay, firstly, as we remember, we log in as a bank with multiple clients underneath it. So if I use the United States, or if the United States investor tried to buy it, okay, let's just say they wanted to buy 100 of them, okay, using the Libra address. Even if they submitted the transaction, it will fail. It does not meet the terms of the transaction. We will shortly see it in the blockchain browser. Let's just try a positive example now. So we mentioned that the Singapore investors are able to purchase it. Let's use a different number. Let's use 200 for now. So $200 from the Libra network paying to the seller. So now sending a transaction to the Libra network, okay, and Libra network is fulfilling the transaction and sending the information back to us to complete the transaction within STACS blockchain. So if I continue here, okay, and I look at the orders that I have just created under ESG, under all, you'll notice that first of all, for the 100 Libra, okay, it has failed because the KYC verification has failed to satisfy the conditions that are set. And if I look at the details and go into the TXID, I'll be able to show that it has been executed on the blockchain. So in other words, we are actually using the blockchain and the smart contracts to actually fail this transaction, because on the blockchain, we are actually looking at a digital identity. We are actually recognizing that this person or this address is ineligible to purchase it. So the reasons for failure is here. So no matter how the investor tries to go around the application, for example, or goes around the exchange or go about the bank, okay, to try to perform this trade, it will fail, because on the blockchain core layer itself, the smart contract will find that it's not eligible. And if I refresh the screen, my Libra transaction should be completed. Yes. So under here, the Libra transaction of 200 Libra. Okay, if I look at the details, so the transaction ID has come out. This is the Libra transaction ID. If I click on it, it will come up to the Libra browser, which has actually been renamed to Diem Explorer, the Diem blockchain. So this is the so-called transaction ID 30257769. If I look at the transaction ID, that here it is. Receiving address is this one. Okay, but we'll check shortly. Okay, so just a moment ago, a few seconds ago, we have already sent a transaction of 200 coins, okay, from one address to the other. If I check it out, okay, so receiving address is this one, or to make it even clearer, let's just go to the asset center and check out the balance. So in the balance under ESG bonds, because we created a social bond for the, firstly, let's check the United States institution. Okay, 0 bonds because they are United States, they are not able to receive the bonds. That's correct. For the Singapore institution, yes, they have received 200 bonds. Okay, so secondly, if you check on the Libra network, okay, they had 99998 just now. Now they're at 408. And if we click on the address, if we copy the address, okay. So first of all, to make sure that this is the right address, okay, that we are showing you the right thing, okay, if we click and paste it into the browser, you'll notice that for this address, the buyer's address, they have just sent 200 coins 2 minutes ago, which is what I just did, to the seller. And the seller, which is the address that we just saw, has received 200 moments ago. So the transaction is complete now, using Libra. Okay. Lastly, we mentioned that we are integrating with the PHX stablecoin at this present moment. But for now, we already have a workflow that we can demonstrate to you. So this is a simulation that we have done. Okay, it is a simulation of the UnionBank PHX application. Okay, so definitely this is already live on UnionBank site. It's just that we are integrating right now. Okay, so for example, from this simulation, okay, if we have 100 bonds right now and 499. Let's just remember the last few numbers, 600 for now. Okay, and if you try to purchase the bond, okay, so assuming that we are going as low as $1 as in the example. So if I want to buy one bond for $1, it is actually about 49 pesos. So let's just say it's the same 49 PHX, and if I agree to it, instead of paying $200,000 for a bond, right now I'm able to invest in a bond, okay, in 1 unit of a bond for about 49 pesos. Okay, so this was what we have done, and you can just do it again, okay, for $100 instead, or $10 to make it easier. So it's 490. Okay, so the number will change again, okay, for 111. So this is how we envision how, investors, even the retail investors, could be able to use the UnionBank app, okay, to place orders using their balance of PHX, sending a transaction via API into the blockchain, okay, to be able to execute the trade inside our Trident application. Okay, so coming back to the presentation here. So what we have done is that we have just completed the launch and the subscription. I'd like to hand over to Ram to see if you have any comments about what we have just done. Ram?
Hey Ben, yeah, I just wanted to reiterate some of those benefits that you mentioned in this future state. So there are a lot of pain points that, if you guys noticed, were removed because some of these are real pain points for issuers and arranger banks. Imagine the number of man hours that you spend when you're trying to ensure that all the orders in this issuance is accounted for, to make sure that the funds are all received well. The system can accomplish this in a lot of different ways, and I think that it makes it a lot quicker, a lot more secure, and a lot more cost efficient for that side.
Thank you. Thanks, Ram. So we'll briefly just talk through the secondary trading. We don't have time to show the demo, but it will be largely the same as the primary markets, where we are able to enforce eligibility, and we are also possibly managing to remove the need for repeated reconciliations by managing the integrity of transactions and holdings on the common distributed ledger. Again, we are already integrated with multiple payment channels for efficient settlements. So I'd like to jump into the last bit, which is asset servicing. So under asset servicing, we had very valuable input from the Deutsche Bank team. After all, okay, we have experts from the Securities servicing unit. Okay, and so I'll just jump into the demo first, and then we can come back to Chris shortly. So back to the asset servicing center. Okay, so we have already completed the issuance and the launch, and now let's look at the asset servicing center. So this is where we have already issued the bonds. The bonds are live, assuming that they are now all in the market right now. So the social inclusion bonds that we just created, there are a few different functions here. For example, we are able to do an attestation. What does this really mean? It means that we are able to put in information onto the blockchain, stored forever in the immutable layer that's available for all participants to view. For example, let's just say that because for the purposes of this bond, we were trying to drive social inclusion, and we have already raised 20 million out of the 100 that's approved. So out of 20 million, let's just say that $2 million, spent on certain affordable infrastructure, let's just say. Okay, and if we do this, what's going to happen is that this will be recorded onto the blockchain. But let's just do one more. Let's just do, for example, audit report. Okay, that is linked to www.audit, for example, .io. Okay, /321. Okay, so similarly, putting in the secondary password. So if I look at it, okay, and if I scroll all the way to the right-hand side, under attestation records, all of these things that I just put in is now available in the blockchain. It's immutable. If I go all the way down, the information that I just put in is now forever on the blockchain. So whoever is in participants that are interested, okay, they could actually be able to read this information, and this could actually help within the so-called scoring of the bond. Okay, and this will definitely be able to tackle greenwashing, where we want to be able to actually have, okay, actual deliverables and impact reporting. So similarly, audit report, we are now able to see this certain link where, in the future state, in the further state, we are also able to hash certain documents onto the chain. Okay, so coming back to more traditional asset servicing, we are also able to now make coupon payments and early redemption. Let's just try it. Okay, so coupon payments. Okay, so I note that of course we are still too early because we have only just launched the bond. But of course, for the sake of a demo, let's make coupon payments now. Okay, so firstly, calculate the number of token holders that are holding onto these bonds before that we can calculate and pay them out. Okay, so by doing that, okay, we are able to read, okay, let's just refresh. We are able to read the number of token holders on the blockchain, okay, and therefore, okay, that will save us a lot of time and effort in trying to find the holders or beneficiaries. Okay, and next thing to do is because we have already calculated and found the number of token holders and their holdings on the blockchain, we are now able to distribute coupon payments. So using US dollars, and let's just say that we are going to send out the payments now. Okay, so from the payment address, which is the custodian address, from the paying agent's perspective, I am now going to make payment. So it's in progress. If I just refresh and give it a few moments, it will distribute all the payments to all token holders on the blockchain instantly. Okay, so this is where we are now able to minimize the number of interactions between the unit holders, the various banks, and the custodian, paying agent, and of course, possibly the CSD if they are all on board this similar distributed infrastructure. So this has now been completed. If I look at the details, okay, it's been successful. If I click on view, I will be able to see the details. And this is again on the blockchain. Clicking on it, it will bring me to the browser. It will show me that I have sent out, okay, the coupon payments to the following addresses. All right. Okay, if I see more detail, okay, remember that I already bought 200 units, and assuming that the remaining units were bought up by a major institutional investor. So this has now been distributed to all token holders on the blockchain. Going back, okay, the last bit that I'm going to do right now is to complete this life cycle by redeeming it early. Again, we have only just issued the bond, so this is purely for demonstration's sake, but let's try to redeem it early, okay? By freezing it first, okay, we are able to prevent, okay, duplication and trading while the action of corporate action is going on. So now that it's frozen, okay, if I want to redeem it, again, it's just an action of making sure, okay, the issuer has already paid the custodian, okay, paying agent, and the paying agent now has received the funds to be able to pay out, okay, to all the token holders to be able to redeem the bond. Okay, assuming all this is done, okay, through integration with existing bank systems, I'm now able to make a early redemption. Again, this is now in progress. Okay, so everything that I've done was through the front end. Of course, in the production state, we expect that this will be integrated with the banking system so that, it's not so easy to just redeem it as I just did. Okay, but today's really just a demonstration to show you how the DLT could be used, for efficient handling of corporate action asset servicing. Okay, this has been completed. If I look at view again, the transaction ID has been created. Clicking on it, I'm able to see that the tokens have been redeemed from these two addresses. Looking at the detail again, yes, okay, remember that we just bought 200 units using Libra, and the remaining units have been bought by a institutional large investor. I have therefore been able to pay them out, okay, accordingly. Their bonds and the principal and the last interest payment. Okay, so the demo is complete for now. Okay, we have completed the asset servicing, which is everything that we have just done was on the STACS blockchain. So for the last bit, I'd like to invite Chris to share any of your thoughts from the servicing, asset servicing perspective. Chris?
I think, Ben, you have very much demonstrated how easily asset servicing can be performed on the DLT platform, especially when a lot of the business logics are, in fact, pre-programmed upfront during the bond tokenization. So that's definitely the key benefit on the use of smart contracts and DLT. For the part, definitely it will generate a lot of effort and resource savings on the asset servicing team, taking away the manual calculations, the reconciliation between the clients, versus the depository, and the layers of approval that will take place before any coupon payment or redemption will take place, given the large nominal that it's going to be paid. So I think it's definitely very helpful. I also note that beyond just asset servicing, I think smart contracts also forms part of the governance where proxy and other governance issues can be incorporated within that. I think so. So I think it's a very positive development over in this area, and it's definitely helpful to the post-trade services industry, especially in the asset servicing area.
Thanks, Chris. So we come to a conclusion, okay, which is essentially we have seen various features and benefits of the blockchain, okay, and especially in relation to the case study that we've just seen. Okay, so from the STACS perspective, we are now able to support more frequent and rapid issuers through the use of smart contract templates. If you notice, we have been able to easily issue a bond, and that's usually very important in current periods, whereby there are numerous brief funding opportunities thanks to the fluctuations in the interest rate. This is also especially relevant for certain themes like social inclusion, ESG investing, whereby the certain nominal size could be smaller but more frequent. So of course, we also identified how there could be greater efficiencies in settlement. When it comes to arranging the sale of a bond, we are now able to configure transactions between counterparties to make it more modular with more flexible settlement cycles with integrated payment channels and multi-party concurrent communications. We are also able to now have an accurate real-time digital ledger of transactions and holdings, which will be able to allow us to automate corporate actions, track and enforce use of proceeds for impact reporting, etc. Of course, with the platform that we've just seen, a lot of it has been collaborated with Deutsche and UnionBank. So I'd like to invite both of them for any last thoughts and especially on any views on how we could implement this better for the future. So over to you first, Ram.
Sure. Maybe just to summarize how we envision this point C, we really believe that, this is a moonshot, but it's something that we want to go for because we believe in financial inclusion for not just the investors, but also the issuers. We already talked about all the efficiencies generated from something like this. And if you can issue in smaller lot sizes, have these smaller issuances, it has a real trickle down effect. I think that the flexibility results in a lot of firms being able to raise capital. So that's a lot more investment options out there. And it's a bigger base of investors because now you get people who would have never been able to invest before participating as well. So at least from our perspective as UnionBank, our long-term goal has always been about co-creating innovations for a better world. We want to help power the future of banking. So when we're innovating, we do so with the end customers in mind. From the lens of the capital market, this includes everything from arranging for an SME or the investing of a retail client. So the technological capabilities that we're building, it's really to build that better world. And we hope that this is part of that picture that we're trying to build out and that it helps improve financial inclusion for all.
Thanks, Ram. How about you, Chris? Any thoughts?
I think from a post-trade infrastructure perspective, I've covered quite a number of key benefits that the DLT will bring. There's definitely a lot more others that it's existing and we are not able to cover in this session. And there are more coming up because DLT development is really speeding up and more functionalities are coming up. So the value of DLT technologies and platform cannot be underestimated. I think we're just at the beginning of it, starting to unravel the various applications and the possible use cases. So it's a very healthy progression. But like Ram said, I think at the end of the day, all this should really translate to value and benefit, not just to the participants in the capital markets, but ultimately to the end clients and consumers, just like, for example, the fractionalized bonds that they will be able to invest in. So I think there will be a lot to look out for in this space. And once again, I'm really, really excited to be part of it.
Thanks, Chris. So we've come to the end of the presentation. Of course, we still have some time for questions. So I'll look at the questions that have been submitted to us from the audience. I see one already. Okay, so first question that we've gotten from the audience. Can we leverage on other technologies other than DLT to solve the existing problems? So it's open for you, Chris and Ram, if you may.
Maybe let me go first. I think definitely yes, the answer is yes. But the important thing that we need to note that it's important to explore all innovative solutions that is currently available to us or in the near future. So DLT is actually one such viable option, and considering the benefits that I've described earlier with that smart contracts comes along, as well as the ability to integrate and interoperate with other platforms, I think the DLT or blockchain is definitely a strong contender and suitable to solve the existing problems.
Thanks, Chris. And I totally agree with Chris because, you know, the world's changed significantly over the past, I would say, maybe decade or so, where there are a lot of new technologies coming to place. I think that, of course, there might be others out there that could similarly solve this use case, but then you have to give everything a shot. And at least from our perspective, grain of salt, because I am from the Blockchain Center of Excellence in UnionBank, but we do believe that blockchain might be a key contender here. Are there other solutions out there that could replicate some parts that we want to focus on? Yes. But in terms of maybe making things faster, making things more secure, and again, making things more accessible, as of right now, we feel that blockchain is the one that addresses all of these pain points.
Thank you. I totally echo both of your opinions. And I also like to add in one point is that we do see from STACS perspective, blockchain or DLT as the underlying infrastructure that is able to onboard other technologies on the top end. For example, if you're talking about tracking certain supply chain materials through the supply chain, you know, we are able to use other technologies like IoT, for example, just one example, 5G, etc. And if you're talking about trade information being analyzed, you know, we could be using machine learning or AI. So, but those are still on top of a blockchain core infrastructure that so-called mutualizes, okay, the information across counterparties, and of course, with the use of smart contracts, able to enforce certain actions based on certain conditions. That's my take too. Okay, let's move to the next question. Oh, that's an interesting question. Interesting tech. When will this be available to the market? I think let me take this. So from STACS perspective, actually, we are really close to having this technology live. In fact, the reason why we have been able to reach where we are, you know, we just saw a live demo anyway. We just saw a live demo and everything that we've shown is already available in our demo environment. So we do have a kind of like a demo environment, a test environment. We call it the studios environment, where our collaborators and partners are able to come on board and do certain experiments within a risk-free but actual live DLT environment. So in other words, this is already available. APIs are already available. We have plenty of technical documentations on our website. But having said that, the fact that we are able to even showcase this today is because of a growing ecosystem of partners, okay, like yourselves, like Deutsche and UnionBank on this call. So we'd be more than happy to onboard or welcome more collaboration in the short term. Okay, next question. Are there other potential benefits of DLT? Would any of you? Yep.
Sure. Well, for me, that's the great thing about the STACS week right now, the showcase, right? So I don't want to delve too deep into some of the things that we're going to be discussed throughout the week, but there are a lot of use cases for DLT, whether it's right now we're talking about the capital markets, but obviously there are a lot of other financial use cases there in the industry. There might be some things in trade finance. There might be things in terms of digital identity. There are a lot of different use cases for DLT. STACS is one of the great players that we are happy to get connected with, who is able to focus on something that we want to focus on right now in UnionBank. But definitely, if you guys are looking into understanding more about blockchain and other use cases, just feel free to check out the rest of the seminars we have or some of the other calls throughout the week.
Thanks, Ram. Cool. Maybe we have only time for one more question. How much would this disintermediate the role of corporate advisors corporate finance advisors, or does DLT essentially facilitate traditional functions? So the questioner is concerned about this intermediation of corporate middlemen, advisors, and corporate finance. Any thoughts? Or does DLT essentially facilitate such functions?
Well, my opinion is that with every technology, I think that's the big concern of a lot of people, especially with something like this where we're literally an intermediary. That's how people would describe what a bank is. And when you think of disintermediation, does that actually phase us out in certain ways? And I think that, at least from our perspective, is it speeds up a lot of things. It makes things a lot quicker. It helps us facilitate things better. Is there a future state where maybe our function is not seen the way it's seen now traditionally? I believe so. In fact, I would guarantee that maybe 5, 10 years from now, the way that we currently do business will not be the same. But at the same time, because of the technology, we might be able to provide new services or touch new markets that we never got to touch before because we have this. So that's my view of it, that this technology helps us elevate what we can do.
Any thoughts, Chris?
Definitely, I think the way that DLT is actually progressing, there are a lot of synergies within the participant, and there will be a lot of changes coming up. So I wouldn't say no, but I think we just leave it as that, and really look forward to what is to come in terms of DLT progression. Yeah.
Thanks. And from my perspective, actually, I do think that DLT actually facilitates such traditional roles. I mean, from a service provider perspective, we are providing a service, right? And certain type of services can never be replaced by machines. You know, the fact that we're having this call right now, you know, we are still human after all. There's still a lot of advisory roles out there that will require experience and expertise. Okay, so but DLT will actually ironically help to raise the service. Okay, as we are, okay, I mean, if you think about it, today we are having this panel, okay, in each other's homes, okay, and when we are out there in Manila while we are here in Singapore. So I think that's one possible examples of how technology is going to bring us even closer together, especially in the financial services space. So I wouldn't be too concerned, you know, if I was a corporate advisor or intermediary. In fact, I'll be looking very forward, okay, to see how DLT, you know, adopting DLT, adopting new technology can make my service even better, can make it even more innovative, and as you said, you know, to be able to expand my services to cover more markets, okay, at the same time with the same resources. Yep. Okay, so I think we are close to running out of time. It's been an enjoyable time. It's been an enjoyable session. I have really learned a lot today, and even before today, over the last few weeks with the both of you. I hope that all the audience out here have also gained and enjoyed this as much as I have. Okay, so we're really looking forward to the rest of the week. As both of you correctly mentioned, we still have a lot of content from both UnionBank and Deutsche over the next few days. And I do think that it's going to be a very interesting week to come. Looking forward to more interesting and powerful sessions together. Thank you very much, Ram. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for your time, and thanks to everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Ram. Bye-bye.